Hello and welcome back to my channel where I like to have fun with all things beauty while being critical about what I accept into my collection. Today I am doing sort of a ranking video. I'm going over all of the complexion products that I purchased this summer, and I was originally going to do this as one video and include eyeshadow, but I actually have too many eyeshadow palettes, so that's going to be the next video I make. You know, traditionally I don't purchase a lot of complexion products during the summer because I really do a really good job of only purchasing from Sephora and Ulta during their spring and fall sales. What that really means is I'm not buying from the bigger brands, and the bigger brands are typically who I get my complexion products from. So that's primarily foundation and concealer, but it can definitely include blushes and bronzers and highlighters, although I feel like everybody makes blush now. Like, you can find just as many good blushes from indie brands these days. But anyway, I like to be able to return complexion if a shade is off or something like that. So between them having more options and having the ability to color swatch, I really get most of my foundations and concealers in the spring and fall. So I do not have a foundation. I do have a concealer because this summer, for some reason, I feel like even more than previous years, there were a ton of sales. So even brands like Natasha, Denona were having some pretty significant summer sales. Like, it used to be the time of year where the sales slow down, the releases slow down. And this year, I don't know, it's probably because the market is oversaturated. So brands are needing to continuously have sales. Because of that, I finally tried the Natasha Denona concealer, for example. So I have kind of a diverse group of products here. I did also try the Singe Beauty blushes, and I got their makeup bag. So what I did was I put all of my complexion products in this bag. So you can see I got the larger one. It's definitely a nice size bag. I'm gonna try to insert a video of me opening and closing it. I don't have a ton of makeup bags that I actually love, so I really was in the market for this. So we'll see how it goes. I plan on using this to actually travel with relatively soon. At the end of the day, it is still soft-sided, so it's not necessarily the most bulletproof makeup bag in the world, but it has a nice flat bottom that can fit palettes, and in general, it can hold a lot of stuff. So I definitely like that. I like that it lays flat on the counter, so when I'm doing my makeup, like in a hotel room, for example, I don't like to take up all of the counter space with my stuff, so being able to take it in and out of this bag easily, see what I have, like, there are definitely features about it that I really like. Alright, because this is a ranking video, I'm going to start with my least favorite purchase of the summer, and that would be the Natasha Denona. You can't even really see it, but actually on camera, this looks like it might be cute. It's not actually cute. It's really cheap. This is one of the cheapest, tackiest makeup bags that I have. I wound up picking this up during a sale, so I think I got it for free, so I'm not like heartbroken about it, but no, I think I did have to purchase like this pencil sharpener to get my total high enough to get the free gift, so I did end up paying for it in reality. But for example, so this came in the bag and it left a huge dent. So it's misshapen now, and in all the photos it made it look like it had a real rainbow iridescence to it. It's kind of barely noticeable. I mean, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, because of the price or a lack thereof, it's definitely not the worst decision I've ever made in my life. But it's just, it was a disappointment to say the least. And I actually haven't even used the pencil sharpener, so I hope it's nice. I mean, I think it only has space for one size pencil, which is, you know, I like the ones that have two at the very least, but whatever. I'm sure it's fine. Probably more disappointing than that, because I did pay for it, would be these from Nars. This I got as a little gift set. It's two little minis. It's a liquid blush and a liquid bronzer. I mean, this happened, I don't know if you noticed, but during the summer, Nars seemed to have like a bunch of clearance sales. I think they were just getting rid of inventory, things that were being discontinued and whatnot. I have no idea what's happening with these products, but the worst one is definitely the Nars Laguna bronzer. This absolutely disappears. You put this on your face And yeah, the color's all right. I mean, it's a little bit orange for me, but whatever. It's fine. But it blends away to nothing. Like, it's nothing like the Charlotte Tilbury Contour Wand, for example, where it goes on super pigmented, but it blends out really easily and it leaves a nice smooth transition, just enough color behind, that kind of thing. This leaves no color behind. So you have to use a ton of it to get any color payoff. And my feeling is when I get to that point, it looks muddy and it's gross and it's not pretty. So, I mean, I could go on for 10 minutes about how much I hate this, but you know, as you can see from the size, it's barely a travel size. Like, you know, I didn't spend a ton of money on these things. So in that way, it's not a tragedy, but it was certainly a waste of a few dollars. And I feel the same way about this blush. This is the Orgasm blush and the color's fine, but again, it mostly blends away. If I really put a lot of effort in, I can get some color and then it's not the worst, but I do feel like it disturbs the other makeup that I have. I don't think it like removed my foundation, but I just know for a fact that I have other liquid blush formulas that are just way better, all around way better. So I don't recommend either formula. I actually think that's it for really terrible products. I don't think anything else here is objectively terrible. Some things I can't use for me. So like this Lawless Primer. It's a moisturizer slash primer. I got this for 50% off GMA deals, and there's something in it that I'm allergic to. So that has nothing to do with the product itself, but it is useless for me. So I'm actually going to give that away to a family member, but you know, certainly not going to buy that again. This butter gloss from NYX from the Beetlejuice collection, I was more just disappointed with this. It has no flavor or scent, so like I was sort of expecting, I don't know, maybe like a vanilla generic lip product. It's called the Lip Butter Gloss. I guess I expected it to be a little bit more nourishing, and it really did not do a good job for hydration, I don't think. And this also had a staining effect, and it seemed like one of the pH adjusting type things, although it could just be the pigment. This is purple, so it left behind like a hot pink stain on my lips, which I don't know. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I guess if all of the butter glosses don't do that, it's not really an issue. But I was more just surprised that this didn't nourish more because I know so many people love those glosses. Another thing that was a color fail was this from What's Up Beauty. I got the lipstick from the Egypt collection in Ankh. And I mean, the lipstick itself is gorgeous. The bullet is gorgeous. It's beyond beautiful. I am happy that I have it just because I think the component is so stunning. I would never get rid of that, but it's just not something I'm going to wear a ton. I'm really picky with lip color, so it's really hard for me to find anything that I like. Then I think I would put my face mists. I got 3 different face mists. One of them is skincare. So this from Nomad, I really just look at this as skincare. It's quite hydrating and it's beautiful, but I really wouldn't put this over makeup because I do think the sprayer is a little aggressive and it would probably disturb the makeup. But in between, when I'm putting on my skincare at night, I like my skin to always be a little bit damp because it helps increase ingredient penetration. So I would absolutely grab this in between steps to keep my face nice and hydrated. It's just not something I would buy again because I don't necessarily need it. I also tried the Nars Light Reflecting. I got both the primer and the setting mist. Let's talk about the primer first. This wasn't hydrating for me. For my super dry skin, you know, I love the light reflecting foundation, so I'm always tempted by anything they come out with, but they know that. That's a very good seller for them. So they put light reflecting on a whole lot of stuff, and I don't think it means much most of the time. But anyway, I'm sure this is a primer that would work for a lot of people. I just think if you're looking for extra hydration, it's not really there. It does have a little bit of color too, not really color, but like a shimmer effect, but it's very, very subtle. So it's definitely not going to really be noticeable unless you're wearing incredibly light coverage. In that case, maybe it would do something, but in all my light to medium coverage foundations, I could never really notice a difference. You know, it was curiosity that got to me. That's why I tried that. And the setting spray I felt the same way about. It wasn't like it was drying, so it didn't dry my skin out, but it just didn't really add much. You know, I just think MAC Fix Plus looks so much nicer on my dry skin. So I'll be repurchasing the MAC, not the Nars. The other thing, before I forget, is the size of both of these. So the primer is only 1 ounce. It's 30 ml. It's tiny. And the setting spray is only 3 ounces. So for a primer and a setting spray, that's pretty small. So whatever the price tag is, I can't think of it off the top of my head, definitely take size into consideration, because when I compare this to my other favorite, which is the Hourglass setting spray that looks so expensive at first, like ounce for ounce, it's not that big of a difference. So it's too much money for what it is, and I would never repurchase either of those. I also tried the Cosmetic Divine Water Perfecting Mist. I tried this because people talked about how enjoyable it was because of the scent. And I don't know, I had a moment of weakness and the curiosity got to me. So I picked it up and I don't like the scent. It smells like an orange creamsicle to me, but that has a very, almost like a milky, I don't know, but like not in a good way, like in a sour way. Like not in a vanilla milk or like a latte, but like an artificially milky. It's not my favorite. I think some people might love it, but it's not really for me. Besides that, it does a nice job. But again, if I put this head to head to MAC Fix Plus, I just don't like it as much. I will certainly use this whole thing up because I don't really want to buy another setting spray right now, and I have no problem with it. But when I go to buy my next setting spray, it's going to be MAC. It's not going to be any of these. So at this point, we're turning up. So everything else I really do like. So ranking is a little bit more difficult. It's mostly going to have to do with shade. So I got this blush from Surratt, for example, and I love the Surratt blush formula. Their powder blush formula is one of my absolute favorites. So it has nothing to do with the formula, but because they were having like a fire sale, by the time I got to the website, the shades that I wanted were gone. So I went with this one instead. This is the shade the Rose du Jour, I think, something similar to that. I don't know how to say it, but you know, it's just too light. It's just too light for me. I will use it here and there. If, you know, I'm using a blush that is too pigmented, this could help tame it down a bit. So I will try to get some use from it, but, you know, just not my favorite color. I feel similarly to the Patrick Ta blush. I meant to get this during the Sephora spring sale, but if you were around during that sale, this absolutely sold out, and it was really hard to get for several months. So, you know, FOMO, whatever. I had it on my list for a while, and Patrick Ta ended up having some kind of a discount. So I was able to get this for 20% off directly from his website. And this is the shade Not Too Much. And it's a beautiful neutral pink. It just didn't knock my socks off. Like, I think all the anticipation made my expectations for this way too high, and it's just blush. I mean, the whole powder and cream concept, I think at this point the novelty has sort of worn off that, and I don't know, it's nice that you get both. I do like the hydrating effect of having the cream there, but it's just a good blush. It's not like a great blush in my blush collection right now. The beauty of that is that I will be so much less tempted to grab those in the future. Like, I know that they're coming out with stuff all the time in this duo compact, and people always kind of go nuts for it, but I feel like for me at least the magic has worn off, and I have what I have and I'm happy with it, but I don't need any more. Another blush that I'm sad to say didn't really hit it out of the park for me was actually the Singe Beauty blushes. You know, I hate to say that, but I do like the formula. I like the formula so much that when she does extend the shade range, because I believe she plans on doing that, I will be picking more of these up. Now, it's not a formula problem for me, it's just the shades. So this, for example, is probably the one that works less well for me. I got Riveting Rhubarb and Timid Tomato, and this is just a little bit too pink. It's so pigmented that I have to use the lightest hand humanly possible to place it so it's not patchy. Then when I do that and I buff it, if I really, really buff it, it can look good. That being said, that doesn't work on top of every foundation that I have. So I really do feel like I have to be careful with this. When I do get it to the right pigmentation, I do like it. I like the finish of these. They do leave a nice hydrating finish behind without being shimmery. That's important to me. I compared these a lot to the Benefit blushes, and I'll try to insert some footage of that, because prior to getting these, the description, when I was just going off the description of these, it really brought to mind the finish of the Benefit blushes. And I think put side by side, they are definitely different. And in some ways, these are a little less over the top, but I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I'm going to pick the Benefit ones over these because they're easier for me to work with. I can just throw them on without really thinking, whereas I need to put a lot more thought into these when I'm using these, but I do like the shade Timid Tomato. I think this stands out in my collection. If I were to repurchase these again, I would only buy Timid Tomato, and then, you know, in the future, see what other colors. I just think the Rhubarb one is just a little too pink for me, whether it be a little too light or whatever. I'm not really sure what the issue is, but I like Timid Tomato. I don't know though, if I was really talking to somebody who was considering these, I would probably tell them to wait until the collection is expanded, and then it's absolutely worth it if you find a color you really want. Otherwise, they're just easier formulas to work with. Yeah, I mean, it's not complicated. It's just not my favorite. Then I guess I'll throw these in. These are just some Lawless, forget the filler. I got the balm and the lip gloss. These are great. These are solid products. My favorite is still the Lawless lip mask, but if you see any of the Lawless stuff for 50% off, I highly recommend it. I'm using that to segue into probably my most used blush of the entire summer, which is the Lawless blush in the shade Angel. 50% off. They only had this one shade. So in some ways I'm grateful, because when I saw it, I didn't think about it. I just bought it and I wanted to try this formula, and I didn't have to do what I normally do, which is go back and forth for 30 minutes trying to pick a color out. This was the only one they had. So that was the one I bought, and it worked out great. This goes on over anything, powder, liquid, like it works with everything. I love it. It was a great last step because after I powdered, when I want to bring the life back to my face, this did that in a really nice way that didn't look greasy, and it dried down so it didn't get everywhere. I just really like this blush. Do I think it's revolutionary? No, absolutely not. I have other blushes that do that, but it was just right place, right time. Like, I picked it up and I just kept using it almost every day this summer. And finally, probably one of my favorite purchases of the entire summer, because I got it on sale, was this Natasha Denona concealer. I have it in shade N4. And this is a great concealer. It's still number 2. It hasn't technically surpassed my combo of the Kosas and the Kulfi concealers. I have both of those. I love both of those, and I mix them actually to get a color that's good for me. But those last all day for me and keep my under eyes nice, hydrated, and inconspicuous. Like, they don't stand out, and that's what I'm going for. This does the same thing, but I think this creases earlier. Everything creases. Like, there's nothing that is truly creaseless. Like, that's not really a thing. But certain things sort of bend with the skin better than others, and I think those are my top 2 picks, but this is a solid number 3, and honestly, the color works better for me than those, so that's one of the reasons that I keep reaching for this, because I don't really need to think too hard. I grab this, it's already color matched, and I'm good to go. So I really was happy with this concealer. And that is everything. My next video that's going to include complexion product is going to be my Ulta haul. I am waiting for one more item to show up in the mail, and then I'll be ready to do that video. And I found some good stuff. So I think this might be the first year I didn't totally overspend, which is an accomplishment all on its own. And, you know, a lot of those products were repurchases, so I'll be able to give good, in-depth, long-term reviews for most of those things. So on to eyeshadow. I hope you're having a beautiful week, and I'll talk to you soon.